All right, in this video, we're going to deploy a Kubernetes cluster, but this time we're going to use standard mode instead of autopilot so we can see what kind of work there is underneath in order to do this the harder way, I would suppose. So in the top right corner, we have switch to standard cluster. And here it's going to just say, hey, you might just want to use autopilot, but no, I want to use standard because I want to manage all that stuff myself. So we'll go ahead here and we have our cluster one. Notice we have zonal or regional. So if it's zonal, it's obviously in a single zone. If it's regional, it's going to span the entire region. I'm going to pick zonal because that's totally fine for my use case. And I'm looking for North America, Northeast 2, and we'll go with A, that's Toronto. And here we say specify default node location, increase availability by selecting more than one node zone. And I mean, like, I don't need more than one, so this should be fine. So we'll just have that there. That's totally fine. Release channel, so select a release channel for GKE to pick up versions for your cluster with the chosen whatever. So we have a few different options. I'm going to stick with regular as that seems okay to me. Then down below, we can choose our cluster tier. Notice that we do not have enterprise option here. First enable GKE enterprise in this project. Okay, so if we wanted that, we'd still have to enable it, which is totally understandable. Let's go over to fleet registration. I do not need to register multiple clusters, so we're going to go with that. Notice the cost here is 128. So obviously it's more, and in fact it's doubled so far, but probably because it might be specifying what kind of nodes we have here. Let's go into the default pool. So this is obviously when we launch up nodes, it's going to go in this pool by default. We can set placement, which is fine. The size of nodes, I'm going to reduce this to 1, and that's probably going to greatly reduce our costs because everything it's spinning up, well, was it really that much? Let's go here. We'll have 1. We'll go to 3. Yeah, so it's not that bad in terms of difference. The thing that's happening here is there's some base cost for the main cluster, and that has to be of a particular size of node instance, and maybe we're not controlling the size of that, and so that's why we're not getting great savings because the nodes underneath, the other 3 are not that much more. We have enable cluster autoscaler, so automatically creates or deletes nodes based on workload needs. That sounds good, but I don't want to do that here today, and we'll stick with 1 node. Clusters smaller than 3 nodes may experience downtime during upgrades because that makes sense. There's not backup nodes to work with. I mean, it's going to be here, so it's the only place it can go, but we'll just specify that there specifically. Then we have our surge upgrade, so we can determine how we want upgrades to occur, whether it's blue-green upgrade or short-lived node upgrade. I'm going to leave it with surge. It seems totally fine to me. And let's click into here and see what we have. So here we can choose our base image. And so this, I guess, is the container optimized for container D. Then we got Ubuntu container D. So I guess it just seems like whatever node you have, if you want to have additional things in there, you can have them. I don't know. I would assume it's bad practice to try to even get access to your underlying nodes. At least in other providers it is. I'm going to assume it's the same here as well. Then here we can choose our E2 size. And so, I mean, I don't know if a micro would work. We could do that and see if the cost drops much. It does, but it's barely worth it. And because we are running things that are containerized, you really don't want to go that small. So even a T2 medium or E2 medium seems kind of tiny for what we're utilizing, but that's fine. We're going to do this. We're not going to keep it up for long anyway, right? Because this is 15 cents per hour. Yeah, boot size is fine. That is fine. Yeah, you could do spot VMs, but probably wouldn't want to do that. For networking, these nodes, settings for creating the nodes, the maximum pods per node. I don't have anything that I want to set here. So, I mean, maybe you might want to limit it. Mask for pod address per node. Okay. So I'm not sure what I want to set here. I guess I'll leave it alone, but I would assume this has been numerical value. We have our network tags, so we can say what it has access to. That might be good. Automatically create second ranges. I don't need second ranges. We'll go on to security. I'm hoping that it doesn't come back and say, hey, fill this in, but this is just a maximum number, right? So here we can choose the identity. So compute engine seems fine. That's going to give us good access to things. Default scope, that seems fine as well. It's not like I'm trying to get access to a storage bucket or anything right now. We'll go over to metadata. Okay, so we have basically labels, nothing super interesting here. We'll continue on over to our cluster. So we can enable the maintenance window and set when maintenance can occur. We're not doing maintenance here today, so it does not matter. We can set vertical pod scaling or etc. I don't want to do vertical pod scaling, but it's not a bad idea. If you need your nodes to scale up in size when you're running into issues, or auto provision stuff, it's not a bad idea, but again, I don't want to do that. We have those couple options, balance and optimize. Not exactly sure what they are, but you know, if we have slides and it's important, I will put that in the slides, which you would have already watched at this point. We're not going to have access using DNS, but we do want to have an IPv4 address. It's not a bad idea. Then down below here, yeah, we're going to launch in our default cluster. Enable VPC native traffic routing. That seems fine to me. Okay. We have more options. So I know these are networking things. I cover this in my Kubernetes course. I don't really remember them, but these are all cloud native projects that we can enable. Okay, so everything looks fine down there. Let's go down to security. We have GKE node shield. What is this? Provide strong cryptographic identity for nodes joining cluster. Not a bad idea. So everything else looks fine here. I do not want to have a backup. That's going to be too much of a hassle for what we're doing right now. Let's go to features. And so this is kind of, I guess it's the same thing with autopilot, but you know, when we're using, again, if you're using Amazon EKS, the same thing, you'd check box on this stuff and you'd get these things enabled. And again, some of these look like, what's this CSI driver and stuff like that? These look like cloud native projects, and some of these are specific offerings from Google. Okay, it'd be really interesting to try their service mesh. Service mesh is always a big pain in the butt, at least on AWS it was. So if Google made it really easy, that'd be really cool, but we're not going to test that here today. And we can look at our code equivalent if we want in the command line. So this, I guess, what it looks like. Doesn't really help that much. It says gcloud beta container. I don't think this is beta anymore. So services are currently unavailable in Southwest America 1. We're not deploying there. We're deploying Northeast 2. We'll go ahead and create this and see what happens. I thought it would have told us like what kind of compute you wanted to use underneath. I was kind of expecting that. But it makes me think it's just using compute engine. So that's something I might want to know. So like, you know, GKE, can you use gcloud or Google Cloud Run? Yes, you can, but I didn't see where you could set it, right? Okay. And I think you have more options than just those two. But that's fine. We're going to go ahead and deploy it. And if it's just virtual machines, that's fine as well. We'll go ahead and create this. And hopefully what we can do is try to deploy the same Hello World application, and we don't run into networking or security issues as working with a custom or standard cluster might be a little bit more of a headache. And does it show us the nodes here on the left-hand side? No, not really. Well, it's over here maybe. So we'll wait for those nodes to, or our node to spin up, right? And I'm curious, once it's deployed, would we see this over in a compute engine? We'll be back in a moment, okay? All right, so our cluster is ready. We have below here our node. I'm not sure if we can see exactly, I think in AWS you can see what the control plane is running on, but this one we obviously can't. Let's go take a look. I want to go over to Compute Engine. I want to see if it's running over there and what we can see. There must be some way to use Google Cloud Run because we Googled it, but here it is. Yeah, so this is the default pool. It's interesting. Okay, and so GKE cluster. So that is, I guess, one of our nodes. And I'm assuming this is not the control plane, right? It has to be something else, and the control plane must be managed by Google. And so it's just, we don't see it, right? But it's going to work. And that's totally fine. So let's go ahead and see if we can actually deploy something to this. We'll go ahead and hit deploy. Let's see if we can do the exact same thing. So we have that. We'll go to container. And we'll go back over to our quick start. This is just the create a cluster quick start. I want to go ahead and grab this application over here. We're going to drop it in here. Okay. Then we'll go all the way down. We'll go to next. Oh, same thing. Okay. I thought it was going to be something more complicated. So we'll do 8080. And yeah, we'll stick with load balancer. I used to know all those types, but again, right now I don't. It would take me about 15 minutes to reload my brain. But we will start that up and see if it works. If it does, that's, again, super, super nice, like super easy. All right, looks like our workload is deployed. We're going to scroll on down, and I guess we still have an endpoint, just like the other one here. And so basically, a very, very similar experience. So yeah, that's pretty darn easy. I'd be curious again. I haven't used KubeCTL in a while, but let's see if I can refresh my memory here. And so I'm going to go ahead and say get YAML. And the trick with kubectl is just establishing a connection. So here we have this information here, and it pipes it over to here. So what happens if we just run that first line here? Because I'm assuming this gets us the credentials, and then we pass it over to here. So one second here. I'm going to copy this here. That seems a bit long. Paste, let's hit enter. Okay, so now if I do kubectl, right, there should be a bunch of commands here. Okay. So let me go take a look here. Let's go ask Claude. Can I use kubectl to list out services? Again, it's been a while, but once we start seeing it, there'll be a pattern to it. Yeah, there we go, get services. It's very conventional. Everything's super, super conventional. So once you start seeing it, actually a lot like the Google CLI. And that might not be by accident because obviously Kubernetes was originally pioneered by Google. And so that's probably why the CLI mimics it so much. So say get services or SVC. We'll see if we can see that. And so I guess it's already established that connection. So that first line must have authenticated it. And so now we can just basically use kubectl. And so we can see that service there. Let's keep going here. So can we view a service? It's probably that with its name. Okay, yeah, it is. Yeah, so super, super simple. So we'll go back over to here, say kubectl, get SVC, and then we'll get its name. So this will be deploy one service. Whoops, we'll hit up again. Deployment one service, right? So we can see that. Okay, can we, I don't know if there's much else to do. Could we, I don't think we'd be able to get into the container. Could we connect to a container? I remember it's a lot of work to do that, or maybe we need a sidecar for that. Yeah, let's give it a try. So we have pod name, container name. And so if we do, let's say kubectl list, was it list SVC or just get? Maybe it's just get, okay. So the reason I'm doing get first, I just want to see, we'll do pods. Nope, okay, so we'll do this. And let's see if we can figure this out here. So we have kubectl, et cetera. And it really depends on what the container is, but we'll go here. And there's the container itself, and then there's the service, which maybe is the pod name in this case. Let's go ahead and see if we can get their deployment. One service. But the container is going to be the container that's actually deployed, right? Not necessarily like, because a pod can contain containers, or a service can contain containers, as far as I can remember. So we'll go into here, and what I'm looking for, oh, we're in Compute Engine. So we'll go over to here, sorry. Or we'll actually type in GKE. Because we should be able to see what the name of the container is if we go over into that service. So on the left-hand side, we'll go to workloads. We'll go into here. Right, because there's 3 pods, right? So then you'd have to connect to a very specific pod, right? Yeah, these are the pod names. Okay, so like, let's say we want to connect to this one. That's actually the pod name. Okay, that makes more sense. So we'll go ahead and we'll paste that in there. But now we need the container name. So what is the container name? Let's see if we go to the YAML here. The YAML might help us see what the name of it is. So what I'm looking for here is where the container is configured. So spec, template, containers, the name is hello app 1. So there it is. So we'll go back over to here. Again, I'm just doing this based on my fuzzy memory of Kubernetes. I've done a lot with Kubernetes, but there's just too much in cloud to remember, or tech, everything to remember. Let's see if we can connect to that. So it says unable to start the container process, no bin bash. And so the reason that's not working is because maybe the container that is being installed does not have bash installed, right? And that would make sense because if you want to, or at least it's not located there, right? So if you're trying to lock these down and make sure that people aren't abusing them, you would purposely deny certain things here. But we're gonna go here and ask, like, is there another way? So we'll go here and it's like, you know, this bin bash didn't work. Could it be another command or another program, like /bin sh, or yeah, see, right away I thought sh, right? So not everything always comes installed with bash, I think, but sh might have it. Let's go try that. No, that failed. And again, it just might not have access to do that. So we'll go ahead and try this. Doesn't exist in the container, right? Often happens with middle containers, exactly, right? But even if that doesn't work, maybe we could try using ls and see what's in there. I'm not sure if that would work. We'll go ahead. Well, I mean, I guess it would because it would have to be in there, right? ls. And we'll try this. Yep, so that's not even in there. Okay, so it's really, really locked down. Let's go ahead and try sh. I don't care if we can get in. I'm just trying to show you what it would look like if you're trying to remotely execute something on it. We could deploy an instance that would allow us to do that. And there is actually a specific container. What container is useful for Kubernetes to launch in order to debug other containers? There's actually a very specific name for that container. I just can't remember what it is, but it'll tell us here in just a moment. It's like something box or, but it's like an intermediate one that is used quite often. BusyBox, there it is. That's the one I was thinking of. So here we could actually end up running it. And I think this one would actually start up within the cluster. Let's go ahead and take a look here. So this will actually download it and I think temporarily run it in the container. Let's go ahead and try that out. Now it's coming back to me because BusyBox, it has a bunch of tools like bash and stuff here. And so now we're actually inside of BusyBox. But it's not super useful for other one. But I guess like if we wanted to ping our other server, because it's on the network here, we could do curl. I don't know what its network name would be. Again, I'm not the best at networking, but we'll go over to here and go back to the, if we just zoom out a bit here, or we'll go back into the actual deployment over here, and it might have like a name. Sometimes the name to network with it is the same name as the container. I'm not sure. So I'll try this, or maybe it's shared on the same network. Again, networking can be set up in a lot of ways, and again, I'm not an expert at this, so but we'll try. Okay, and I think it's on port 8080, so we'll try this. Oh, curl's not there. Do we have www yet? Okay, so that didn't work. What if we try this? Port 80. What if we try 0.0.0/80? Or, okay, what about 8080? Yeah, and again, really bad at networking, but if I spend a little bit of time here, I can figure it out. I just wanted to show you that KubeCTL was there, that you can interact with it. It's very conventional. But yeah, there's a reason for us to spend more time deploying an actual workload. I'll invest a little bit more energy, and we will build something more substantial. Oh, cool, they have Knative here, so this is for running basically serverless stuff. Do you even need this if you have GKE Autopilot? I don't know, but I guess it does have like smaller functions. Serverless functions, so maybe Knative is useful for that. But I think what we did is we learned that there is nodes, and at the very least, we were seeing them being managed by Compute Engine. How you can get Cloud Run there, I don't know at this point, but it's not really that much of a concern. We'll go ahead and we'll delete this cluster. Okay. All right, and we'll wait for this to delete. I'll be back in a moment. Just make sure that this actually deletes, okay? All right, that cluster is now deleted, and there you go.